So we're down to the start for this race in the women's pairs event, which is the Hambleden Pairs Challenge Cup. Two Dutch crews, Vermeer and Stewart to the left, Beeres and then disappeared, Youssifou on the right. And the crew on the right were 7th in the European Championships this year, and we see them getting away from the start here, Jess.
Bouncy there, Jessie Vermeer, we just saw in the shot before with her Neerhouse University club colours on, racing against these Dutch national teams. So we can see the Dutch national team over here on the Buckingham Station versus an up-and-coming younger Dutch team on the left of your screen on the Berkshire Station. So they'll be wanting to stick it to these girls, see how close they can get to the actual national team. And right now, Greg, they really look to be doing that. They've taken it out down the island, and it looks very level. In fact, I think they've got a slight lead. Yeah,
as you say, on the far side, I guess we've got the pretenders looking to take on the national team colours as we look at them here in their university colours. The Neerhouse University in the bow seat. Yeah, they've made a pretty solid start here.
They're very relaxed in their face. They look like they're moving that boat really nicely, and it's always easier to be the underdog, I think, in this kind of situation. But let's see how long they can stick with this national team for.
Yeah, as you say, well, these two came 7th at the European Championships earlier on in this year, and there's not much to say that doesn't look good really in that pair in terms of how they're moving and how quiet they are and how that boat just seems to be carrying on moving underneath them.
Very still. That shot showed us how still they were in the body. I think sometimes people jump in a pair and think they have to do something completely different, kind of wing round their rigger or lift a knee, and actually you just got to sit still. It's a really simple sport we do. You've got to sit still, apply your power down that boat. We're moving the boat from A to B as fast as possible.
And then you get blade work as tidy as this. And as you say, it's by sitting still and just locking that blade up against the water as we have a look at this crew for Neerhouse and Roevelingen University or clubs. As they see them, they went off for a big start and now settled into what looks like more of a sustainable pace. And the question is whether they'll be able to keep with the national crew as they're coming now towards the barrier. And we can see there's a little bit of open water that's starting to creep in between the two pairs.
It's quite a tricky boat to row, the pair, really. You've got one blade on one side and one blade on the other side, and I think it's a hard one to learn in, but that feeling, Greg, when you cracked a pair and the kind of physics of rowing one side only, it's a pretty special boat to row.
I think it's a special boat, as you say, and there's a teamwork involved in it because you've only got half of it, so you need to really match up with that other person, be really sympathetic to the way they move, which I think this pair do pretty nicely. That they've got a little bit of time when the hands come around the finish. It just looks, I think we used the word quiet, didn't we, earlier on when we saw them. It just looks quiet and unruffled, nothing really going on to slow the boat down. And also, of course, you've got to steer them, as we can see the crew on the right getting pulled in, probably caught on the bow wave a little bit, don't you think?
Yeah, I wonder if Sarah Winkler's there. The umpire's going to use her flag at any point, or is the margin's big enough that she's not worried about interference?
Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I guess the national crew who are on the right of the shot now, they haven't done anything wrong. It's the following crew who kind of made the error really and wandered out into the middle of the course. But I do think you get that when a pair gets a little bit away from you, or any boat gets away from you, you kind of catch the bow wave, and it's almost like your boat kind of gets pulled in. And it's hard to control that. You don't want to use the rudder because obviously the rudder provides a little brake, and the brake kind of slows the flow of the boat. That's
a great shot there to see the puddles that are left behind from the oars leaving the water. It's actually quite tricky to row in, so it's really kind of turbulent water, and you don't want to row in that. We call it dirty water. You want to be in clean water so you can drop your spoon in and really get connected to a clean bit of water. So it can't be comfortable from that crew behind there.
Yeah, and as you can see, there's a few waves on the water, a bit of wake now. It's a busy sunny Friday at Henley, so the water's a bit jumpy as well, so it'll be particularly uncomfortable for that following boat. That not only have you got to deal with the conditions of Henley, what is fairly benign in a little tailwind, I think on the course earlier seems to have died more or less away, but you don't really want to be in someone else's puddles in that dirty water.
Yeah, the wind's dropped down a bit now. Sitting here on the finish line with quite good barometers of the wind actually, and it was getting a bit windy earlier on, but the wind's dropped, means speeds will probably slow down a smidgen, but you, as a rower, would love these conditions. Fairly flat, sunny day in Henley.
Yeah, absolutely, you would love these conditions, and what a lovely picture that is that shows the racecourse out in front of the crews. Still plenty of distance to go And the national crew from the Netherlands, as we look on the right, will want to conserve their energy for later in the regatta. And you really want the crew behind to kind of give up, don't you? And you say, come on, why are you having to race us all the way to the finish line? But this crew behind, they're not going to let that happen. They're going to do anything they can, because there's still plenty of course left. If someone was to go wrong, they could still come back.
And we've seen things go wrong at Henley. The trickiness of here is that you can see the course there, got these wooden booms down the side, and you can veer off. Anything can happen. You could hit a duck, you can catch a crab, you could hit a bit of that wake from all those pleasure boats. You have to keep on your game, clear-headed and concentrating. You're there to mess up, really, when you're the national team. So if this goes back and keeps some pressure on, they're only coming past Ramnham. They've still got 600-700 metres to go. They could put them under some pressure, but 3 lengths up, you'd just be practicing some of that technique. What would you be talking to at that point, Greg?
Well, I think if you're in the leading pair, you're trying to stay together, because I think the trouble is when you're leading and you sort of take the pressure off a bit, sometimes it becomes uncomfortable, because you don't often sit around and talk about what are we going to do if we're winning. You kind of talk about your whole race plan from start to finish. I think if you're in the boat that's following, you're just trying to keep your focus and go, is there something else we can do? What can we throw at them? What have we planned? What could surprise them in any way? But with this kind of margin, it's pretty difficult in this situation, I think.
I'm sure they're putting a lot of work down, but it looks quite long and relaxed from this over on the Berkshire station. If they could really, I don't know, drop the hammer, have a turn of pace,
well,
I'd love to see that happen.
I think what you saw at the beginning, and you called it, Jess, was that they really went for it off the start. They led the national pair and they took it to them. And I guess the danger with that is that then once you get behind, you've eaten all the sandwiches in a picnic, really. There's not an awful lot left. And so, although, they're smooth, we're used to seeing these Dutch crews look really smooth and efficient, and these two are absolutely doing that well. But they're probably just out of beans a little bit.
And that's a good example of rowing. You're flat out physiologically, your lungs are burning, you're using your VO2 to the maximum, you're kind of getting as much oxygen in and out of your body as possible. Right now, your legs are probably screaming. It's hurting these girls, but you're doing this relaxed stroke and you're trying to keep it relaxed. And you see many of these crews look like they've almost got no pain in their face, and they'll cross the line right in front of us and they're gasping for air, they're grabbing hold of their legs, they're shoving their feet in the water. It's an interesting mix between relaxation and absolute flat-out output.
I think that's right, isn't it? If you do it well, you make it look like it doesn't hurt. You look like you're in control, you look like you're calm, but actually it's burning underneath. It's like that swan, isn't it? You're paddling so hard, you're working so hard in the muscles, the lactate will be really hurting them now, but you've got to keep it relaxed and smooth.
Some nice rowing there by the Dutch team. They're not coming off the pace too much, they're definitely breathing, getting some air into their lungs, and having a chance now to row down this applause from the enclosures, looking forward to their Saturday's racing.
They will be, knowing they're through to the next round, knowing they're going to be in the draw for Saturday. They will go away, they'll relax and recover and wait for the racing schedule to be put together tomorrow. They'll know who to look out for, who they could be racing tomorrow, and then that draw will come out and they'll plan their day out for tomorrow.
Taking a little bit of the speed up there, the Dutch team on the Berkshire station, but no match for their national compatriots.
So we see them coming across the line, and the national Dutch pair who were 7th at European Championships across the line ahead of their counterparts from the Netherlands. And we see confirmation of that result in the Hambleden.